This time on Road and Race, I completely overhaul the braking system by replacing the discs, pads, hoses and fluid. I sort out the unloved alloy wheels and solve the mystery of why my tyre keeps going flat. In the last episode, I completed the preventative maintenance and servicing by cleaning the clogged up DPF and changing the transmission fluid, differential oil, fuel filter and engine oil. This time I'll be focusing on safety by making sure the brakes are as good as they can be by replacing the discs, pads, hoses and fluid. Also, there are problems with my wheels to sort as they're looking quite bad with curbing, peeling lacquer and worn centre caps. There's also run flat tyres on this car which I don't like because they're not that comfortable and give a crashier ride. There's also different brands of tyre fitted with Bridgestones at the front and Goodyears at the back. From a safety point of view, having different brands isn't ideal because they'll behave differently, especially in the wet, and that could be potentially a little bit dangerous. And as they're beginning to wear out now, it makes sense just to replace all four. Also, one tyre keeps going flat, so I'll need to figure out why that is. So let's start with the brakes. This car got the larger calipers from the 530D, so you should expect it to stop quite well. It doesn't really work as well as I would like. When you press the brake pedal, there's the initial kind of bite, and then towards the middle there's nothing, and then right at the end that's where all the braking effort is. So that could be the brake fluid getting old, or it could simply be cheap brake pads. And as the discs and pads are nearly all worn out, I'm simply going to replace them all. This car is over 10 years old now and is still running the original rubber brake hoses. Over time, the risk of these rubber hoses developing a problem gets greater and greater. So since they're not that expensive, roughly about £100 for all of them, it makes sense just for peace of mind to swap them out as well. There's no history for when the brake fluid was last changed, so we'll change that as well. So I called up BMW for a quote for parts and labour. The price for parts was £756, and if you wanted them to fit it as well, it brought the total to £989. For a more wallet-friendly quote, I went to the EBC Brakes website. You have the choice of standard vented discs or slotted performance discs for this car. Even though the slotted ones look great, they are more expensive and I don't really need the extra performance, so the standard discs here will be fine. As for brake pads, EBC offer about 5 different choices here. As you may know, I use the blue stuff pads in my 350Z track car because they can tolerate a lot of heat on the track. The disadvantage of those is they're a bit dusty and they can squeak a bit at low speeds. So for this car, because it's like a everyday road car, I've gone for the red stuff pads because they won't squeak, offer low dust, and they offer about 15% improvements in performance over like your standard stock pads. They're also R90 approved, so you don't need to tell your insurance company about uprated pads. EBC also sell braided steel brake hoses. These are made with stainless steel, so won't corrode and should offer a more responsive pedal feel. All this for £509, and they also throw in a free bottle of performance brake fluid. So that's about £247 saving over the BMW parts. So all I've got to do now is get them fitted. First off, I'm just going to drain the brake fluid out of the reservoir. That requires taking all this kind of plastic stuff off. Just a bit of penetrating fluid to help free up the disc retaining screw and the connections to the rubber hoses. The brake pad wear sensor is gently eased out. The caliper can sometimes be a little bit
difficult to remove, but luckily I have a tool for that. The nut on the brake hardline tends to seize up on BMWs this age, so my little trick is to bend out this little retaining clip so you can unscrew the hose from the top. A clamp helps push the brake piston back in. If you can, it's always best to try and clean up the mating surface to make sure that the new disc fits as well as it can. And here it is with the new discs, pads and hoses fitted. The only thing left to do now is to pressure bleed the system. I have a full guide on how to do this if you click the box at the top right now.
So let's talk wheels and tyres now. There's three immediate problems. The first is that when I'm cruising at 70 miles an hour on the motorway, there's a judder in the car. It's quite distracting and doesn't feel that nice. Second, the rear near side tyre keeps going flat. And third is that the wheels themselves could do with a bit of love. There's curbing, peeling lacquer and ruined centre caps. Looking more closely at the tyres, I found that there's different sizes front and back. We've 245/40 on the fronts and 255/40 on the rear, so actually slightly wider tyres on the rear. Whilst it's common for high-powered BMWs to have wider wheels at the rear, this car doesn't, so the tyres should match. It feels like to me that this car needed new rear tyres and the tyre shop didn't have the right tyres in stock, so they just put those ones on which are wrong and said, yeah, that'll do. So this could be a cause of the motorway judder because the actual rears are now 8mm taller than the fronts. So onto the wheel that keeps going flat. I couldn't see a noticeable puncture in the tyre, so I had it removed and look what we found. Yes, a dirty, big crack. Whilst it is technically possible to have this crack welded up, I've been advised not to do this because you do run the risk of something going wrong, you know, the weld failing at high speed, and you don't want the tyre coming off when you're going fast, do you? So I need a new wheel. A brand new M Sport wheel from BMW is £427. Auction sites sell used wheels for about £60, but they would need refurbishing. So let's say I did buy a used wheel and then had them refurbished. I worked out this would cost me about £320. I had a look around and a whole new set of aftermarket wheels from Avis, which look the same as the M Sport wheels, cost £496. And you can even get them painted and anthracite. So for just a little bit more money, I get a whole new set of wheels. So that's what I did. In the future, if I do choose to get a used wheel to complete the original set, then I could potentially use those with winter tyres in the winter. Finally, on to replacing the tyres. As I mentioned, I don't like run flats. They're nearly worn out and they're the wrong size. So let's get them replaced. I run Kumo's PS91 tyres on my 350Z, which is the highest performance summer tyre they make. And I really like them as they're comfortable and quiet day to day, but give loads of grip and feedback when on the track. I won't need quite that level of grip in my family wagon, so to save a bit of money, I'm going to be fitting Kumo's PS71 tyres. They should offer an increased wear life over the PS91s and are very reasonable at about £88 each. So off to the tyre fitter. Here's the joy of having an estate car, as everything fitted, no problems. So here are the new wheels and tyres fitted to the car. I think they look almost identical to the genuine M Sport ones, plus the anthracite finish looks amazing. I've also bought and fitted some new monochrome centre caps, which I prefer over the standard blue ones. I've been driving around on the new tyres and wheels and brakes now for about 1,000 miles or so. So I should give you my thoughts on how I feel they are. First off, the brakes are now much improved. They're a lot more responsive, as you can see. Push it a little bit, you get a little bit of braking, lots of nice kind of progressive feel on the pedal. You're not having to stamp on it really to get lots of braking at the end. Not scientifically tested this as well, but it does seem like they stop you a bit quicker as well. It's also a lot more controlled. I've tried doing some braking tests at 60 and there seems to be less lock-up from the ABS system as well. It just seems to work in a more controlled, more safe manner now. As for the tyres, I'm really enjoying these Kumo PS71s over the run flats I had before. They're just so much more comfortable. The car doesn't crash over bumps anymore, and you just get an extra level of kind of suppleness, which gives a more kind of enjoyable ride. There's no loss of directness though, even though they are slightly kind of softer sidewall. It's still very pointy, there's no steering feel loss. I've also driven these tyres in the wet, and the grip level is really, really good. Because this is a rear-wheel drive car, there is a risk of the back kind of stepping out a little bit, but I've not had any of that. I'm very pleased to report. But most importantly, that really annoying judder I was getting when cruising on the motorway is gone. It's brilliant. This car is now really comfortable, really smooth and enjoyable on long distances.
Next time on Road and Race, I put aside the remaining mechanical work to turn my attention to how the car looks by giving it a thorough clean, ceramic coating it, fitting a new matte black performance grille, and sorting out a few other minor things.